So for this week's little tutorial on photographing your pet at home, I want to chat to you and show you how you can take detail pet photography. It is the challenge of the week, so if you're in the Ragamuffin Camera Club, here's some tips for how you can do this week's challenge. So detail photography basically is when you're taking really close-up details. It's really helpful in photography to help tell the entire story of whatever you are photographing. So in this case with pets, like a little detail of their nose or their fur or an eye or an ear or a paw. It doesn't have to be part of them either. Detail could be something like their collar, if it's really meaningful, or a favorite toy, or them chewing their bone. Basically, it's like a really close-up shot, and it does help to tell a story. I love to use them whenever I'm doing albums because it goes really well alongside my other more normal portraits, like a head and shoulder portrait, for example, to sort of show a different aspect of your pet that we might not otherwise notice. So you can either shoot this on something like your DSLR or a mirrorless camera, or I'm also going to show you how to use a smartphone to photograph your detail photography. When we're photographing details, what we want really is to get as close to our subject as possible, because that way we can bring the details up really large in the frame. So that's a benefit of a specialized lens like a macro lens. It means my focusing distance is more something like this, rather than with a standard lens, I would have to be much further away, more like this from my subject to be able to focus. It's kind of like if you're holding your hand in front of your face, once you get to a certain point, it's just going to be blurry, and there's no way you can possibly, now I'm going cross-eyed on Instagram, but there's no way that you can possibly focus up that close. Same thing with the camera. It gets to a certain point and it just can't focus any closer. So I'm going to show you first shooting on the 24-70mm, which is more of a standard zoom lens, and then I'll swap over to the macro and show you the difference. I'm hoping to get one of the dogs up here for my macro shot, because having that side window light works really well for macro photography. Usually I'm a big fan of having even front light, but having a little bit of a soft side light works really well, because it lets you catch up more of the little details, especially in like a nose, because you see more of the contrast between all the patterns. So first up, I'm going to take the macro shot with my regular lens, 24-70, and zooming in, and then I'm going to set my center focus point on a single point focus and open my aperture really wide because I want that really beautiful blurry background, and we'll take the shot. Maple, come here, buddy. Good girl. Nice. Drop. Good girl. Yeah. Now, can I get any closer? No, my lens won't focus any closer than that. So this is the shot on the 24-70. As you can see, it's focused on her nose, so we can see all the texture in her nose print. It's kind of like a fingerprint. I do love a nose shot on a dog. I think they're really cool. But we can also see more of her face and everything because I'm on a wider focal length. So I'm going to switch over to the 100mm macro, and you'll see just how much closer we can get. Now the problem with macro lenses is it's really easy for your subject to move in and out of focus, so you do have to be quite quick. Gotta be quicker than that. So as you can see, you can get a lot closer with the macro lens, which gives you a better magnification of the detail that you're photographing. In fact, I took another photo, this one, where I was really close to her nose, and you can see all the individual textures and patterns in her nose print. It's pretty cool. Now, let's switch to our final way of photographing details, which is with a smartphone. Now, you can get different camera lens attachments for your smartphone, but I'm just going to take this shot with my smartphone as is. What I am going to utilize is the autofocus lock option that you have on an iPhone. Come inside, I need you for this. Come on, buddy. Basically, with this autofocus lock option, you just click on whatever it is that you want to focus. So my shoulder, for example, and then you hold down the square until it says AF lock up the top there. What that will stop the smartphone camera from doing is changing the focus constantly. So you might find it quite difficult to focus on something really close to the camera without doing this, because the camera will keep focusing on whatever's behind. So we'll get her back up here and we'll take our last photo. Tap her nose. Tap her nose, that's it. You can see. Lock and take my shot. Very cute, darling. And here's my photo with a smartphone. So like the macro lens, it was really easy for this to become out of focus. I had to shoot really quickly, but using the AF lock feature did help. Here's the comparison. We've got on the top our 24-70, so a standard DSLR lens. In the middle, we've got our macro. I took one a bit further away and then one that's real close up. And then finally, we've got the smartphone option. So that's how you take detail photos, whether or not you're using a DSLR or a mirrorless. Again, you can use different lenses for a mirrorless or using your smartphone. Hope you found that helpful, and I'll catch you next time.